I don't know how he did it, but with this one movie, Bryan Singer fixed the X-Men franchise. The laser is 'cause I like sci-fi. The dude is 'cause I am a rad guy. 99 is 'cause I like Wayne Gretzky. That's why I'm Lazy Dude 99. Laser time and we're gonna do a review. Yes, we're gonna review and talk about movies and comics too. Let's all go watch the Hey everybody, I'm Lazy Dude 99. Welcome to my review of X-Men Days of Future Past. So, this movie, of course, starring Hugh Jackman as the Wolverine, James McAvoy and Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier, Michael Fassbender and Ian McKellen as Magneto, Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique, Kitty Pryde, played by Ellen Page, and about every single X-Men person that's ever been in the movie, past or present, except for Gambit. But that's okay, because here he's going to be in the next one. In any case, this movie is about how the future is basically the Sentinels has utterly wiped out most of mutant kind, and even humanity, because even though the Sentinels were originally designed to only target mutants, they start realizing that human people eventually breed mutants. Therefore, to stop the mutant menace altogether, it has to stop the human race, too. So we get this big, dystopian, ugly future that, like everyone said, is basically Terminator, with these really cool designs of Sentinels that I've never seen before. And so now the remaining mutants, some of them have survived on this thing. Whenever they're getting attacked by Sentinels, Kitty Pryde, who has now developed this power to send someone's consciousness back to their younger body. I don't know how she developed that power, but not too important. Anyway, they use that to stay out of the Sentinels' way. And realizing that they basically lost this war, and it's only a matter of time before they all die, Xavier and Magneto and the rest of the X-Men, they decide that the only way to save this future is to send someone's consciousness back to their younger body far, far back in time to stop this future from ever happening. And the only candidate to do this is Wolverine, mostly because doing this puts a humongous strain on someone's mind and can cause permanent brain damage. But since Wolverine has a healing ability, that gives him the ability to heal any brain damage that would occur, and therefore he's the only one that can be sent in time to do this thing. So he has to go back in time and get young Charles Xavier and young Magneto to work together and stop Mystique from assassinating this guy named Bolivar Trask, who's played by Peter Dinklage. Now, before we get into the whole review, I just want to say certain things about my previous thoughts on the X-Men franchise. I love the first two movies. They're really great superhero movies. I personally like the first one more than the second one, even though I know the second one's probably a better movie altogether. I like the first one more because my favorite X-Men is Cyclops, and he's actually in it, not really in the second one. And then I hated the third one, hated X-Men Origins Wolverine. I was on First Class. I didn't really like it because it had so many continuity problems that just bugged the heck out of me, and I kind of like the Wolverine. So I've been really having a rocky history with the X-Men franchise to this date, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to get with this. But I was still excited because it was Bryan Singer returning to the X-Men chair, who of course had been the director of my favorite X-Men movies. Now, what do I think about this movie? As I said in the video at the beginning, I think they fixed the X-Men franchise with this one thing. I mean, we had two kind of things going on. We had First Class and we had the old original. We had both of those going on, and it was it was all over the place. It was basically all over the place, and sometimes the stories wouldn't match up. They were all over the place. With this, it's just like, look, we're officially rebooting in a way that's not the traditional reboot. The actors are still the same. The characters are still the same. So, for example, future Charles Xavier is still going to be Patrick Stewart. It's not going to be a different actor playing future Charles Xavier. Wolverine is still going to be played by Hugh Jackman. Stuff like that is going to remain the same, but the history of the X-Men has been altered so thoroughly into this film. It's actually a really interesting twist on the whole scenario. Now, some people will say, okay, now that this has changed everything, will you like First Class now because all of that is now changed? No! Because of one thing. I'll just touch on this quickly. Because those continuity problems are still continuity problems. The past wasn't changed until this point when Wolverine got sent back to the past. So all that stuff that was still back there still should have been the same as still should have lined up with X-Men 1, X2, and those other movies. But they didn't at all. So the continuity problems that were in that film were still continuity problems. Where the continuity problems in this film aren't that big of a deal because time has now shifted, and therefore you can't expect everything to line up the same. Got it? But a lot of the stuff that I liked about X-Men First Class, they took the best stuff of it and put it in this movie. As I said, I liked James McAvoy as young Charles Xavier, and I liked Michael Fassbender as Magneto. I love that, and they're in this film, and they both kill it. I have to say, though, Michael Fassbender is the one that steals the show for me. He plays such a perfect young Magneto that I just see him as Magneto now. I mean, when I think of Magneto, when it's like old season Magneto now, I do think of, you know, Ian McKellen, but now if I read a comic where Magneto is younger, I'm just picturing Michael Fassbender because this guy kills it as Magneto. He's stern, but he's not, like, unreasonable. He's not stupid. He's menacing when he needs to be. He's sympathetic when he needs to be, and you can see that he's willing to do anything to do his cause, and I love that about him. I love because that's Magneto as in a nutshell for me, so anytime he's on screen, he's stealing the show for me. And I like how Wolverine is integrated into this movie because Wolverine is back to just being really cool, but he's put in a scenario that he's not normally put in, that he has to be the peacekeeper, and this is Wolverine, the guy that would rather stab something than figure out how it works. And he comes back in time, and he's doing all this stuff. Okay, I want to talk about the future stuff, because the future stuff is actually pretty cool. The way that Kitty Pryde has this power that she can send someone's consciousness back in time is really cool, because all these other mutants, basically in the beginning, they have this thing where all they're doing is buying time so she can send Bishop back to Bishop's younger consciousness and warn everybody about this Sentinel attack that's going on. So all these other mutants, they're dying. They're literally sacrificing themselves. They're dying. We get some mutants. We got Warpath. We got Blink. We got Iceman there. And they're... okay, I just want to say Blink, her power, the way they use it, so cool. It keeps the fighting like so fast-paced and entertaining. And it throws you for a loop. It's really cool. The fight scenes throughout this entire movie, very, very cool and memorable. Some of the highlights and some of my favorite just... of fight scenes that I've ever seen in any of the X-Men movies. I won't give away which ones in particular because I want you guys to experience them for yourself. But, oh man, these were great fight sequences. Entertaining as heck. But one of the things that I liked about this movie, that one of my complaints about First Class is that the only interesting characters was Magneto and Xavier, and all the other side characters I didn't really care about. Well, most of those are just shoved off to the side, and you don't even see, you see them mentioned either once or seen once, and that's it. They just return, they're out of the picture, because Bryan Singer knows that we're not really interested in those characters, so therefore, we don't need to give much screen time to those characters. Let's give the screen time to the characters that we actually care about. My one thing that I want to talk about, and this is kind of really touchy, because Jennifer Lawrence is one of my favorite actresses of all time. I think she's amazing with her work in, you know, stuff like The Hunger Games, but also in her other stuff that she's done, like Silver Linings Playbook. I loved her in that. She is a really strong actress with really great acting chops. I don't like her as Mystique. And this might just be personal preference, but I could, like, count all of Mystique's dialogue in the first 2 X-Men films on, like, one hand. I mean, like, okay, she says... "It's because of men like you that I was afraid to go to school as a child." I think that's her only line as Mystique in the first X-Men movie. The rest of her acting, the actress that plays Mystique in those 2 movies, is done by you know, just the sly moves, the facial expressions, and, you know, the body language, where Mystique does a whole lot more talking in here. And I find it hard to just see Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique. You know, when she's supposed to be letting out the evilness inside, I don't fully see it. And I'm conflicted because she's such a great actress. And I won't say that she's doing bad acting, but I just, every time I see her as Mystique, I don't feel like she's Mystique. Maybe that's just me. Maybe you guys think she's great as Mystique. She has some good moments in this movie, especially with her and Magneto. There's a scene with them together that I actually really did like. It really spoke to me of her as a character. And the way that Magneto treats her is actually really good because I love those two's dynamic with each other. It's just her. I think she talks too much. She might be too emotional at times, where Mystique always came off to me as a cool, stone-cold, level-headed character, where here sometimes she feels either too emotional or maybe in over her head, stuff like that. But besides her, as I say, it's not like she's acting badly. Jennifer Lawrence is a great actress, and one of my favorites of all time. Especially, guys, just so you know, just off topic here, if you ever have any spare time, just watch some of Jennifer Lawrence's interviews. She's so honest with people. She's so open with people that it's so weird because you're constantly, whenever you see interviews with actors and actresses, they have all this BS that they hide behind, and they're afraid to show who they really are, and they have just a professional smile, and that's it. And you watch Jennifer Lawrence interviews, she'll tell you everything. She'll start rambling on about random things that have absolutely no point to them. I love it because she's just so open with people. Okay, enough about that. I'm just saying I didn't fully like her as Mystique. I'm still not really into the guy that's playing Beast. But to be fair, out of all the characters that are in the film, he's probably given the least to do. I think that it's just not that the guy's a bad actor or anything. It's just that when it comes to all the other characters that stand out, he's kind of in the background. And I always thought that Beast, you know, I don't know. I don't like that Beast is kind of just in the background and there, but he doesn't really do anything. But those are the only two complaints I have about this film with its casting. Not casting, with the characters. Everything else is spot on. I want to talk about Peter Dinklage as Bolivar Trask, because Bolivar Trask is one of those characters in comics that is not really much of a character. His, one character trait is being like this. I hate mutants! Mutants are so bad! Stupid mutants! They're bad! I hate them! Yeah, he's not that much of a character in the comics. I don't really get why he hates mutants for any real reason, or why he's trying to take them out with Sentinels. It just seems like such a whiny, insignificant character with no motivation other than I hate mutants. In this film, oh man, Peter Dinklage sells his performance so well, because he's his character has this angle that it's not that he hates mutants. Sure, he's distrustworthy as mutants, and he thinks that their untapped power is threatening, but it's not that he hates mutants as his motivation. I love what they do is they say that he feels that if we can get all of humanity to rally behind this hatred of mutants, that can be something that unites humanity in a way that the human race had never ever seen before. A common enemy would stop all this stuff going on with the Russians and Americans in the Vietnam War that was just ended at the time period of this movie. It would stop all that and unite everybody with a common enemy. Basically saying nothing unites people like a common enemy. The enemy of my friend. So he's trying to make all of humanity against mutants, so to bring humanity together. Now, while that is a misguided view, you can see why he's doing it. And his actions are horrific and horrible. But you can see why his character is doing it. It's kind of like Ozymandias from Watchmen. And it really comes across as more of a character than mutants are so bad! As for who steals the show the most, I don't know. Everyone's trying to steal the show, and they're all doing a really good job. I mean, you get to see almost every character in their element. Whether it's Iceman shooting up some Sentinels with some ice powers and doing some cool stuff, whether it's, Warpath or Blink doing weird, cool stuff in their fight scenes in the future, or if it's Wolverine trying to get Charles Xavier back to his prime as he's on this thing that I'll talk about more in the spoiler part of this review, and whether it's Magneto or even if it's Quicksilver. Now, I won't talk about Quicksilver because I want to save him for the spoiler part of the review, but let me just say, guys, Quicksilver, Joss Whedon, if Avengers Age of Ultron wants to make a really good Quicksilver, you're going to have to try really hard to be better than this Quicksilver, because this guy was awesome. What else can I say about this movie? The effects are awesome. The characters are all awesome. The writing is spot on. It ends on such a perfect note that you're just like, it all washes over you, and then you realize that you just watched the best X-Men movie ever made. I am not even kidding. I like this movie more than any of the X-Men movies ever made. This, right now, is, in my mind, the best. Because it does so many things right and so little things wrong. It gives you every single thing that you could ever want as a fan of the X-Men, and improves on some of the stuff from the comics, like I said, Bolivar Trask. So it improves on stuff like that, and it does everything so well that I am just stunned. I'm really stunned at how much I like this film, and I'll say this, that guys, if you do not see this movie and you are a fan of the X-Men, you are missing out. Forget X3. Forget X-Men Origins Wolverine. Those aren't important anymore. Those stuff don't matter because Bryan Singer's back and he's brought the X-Men. So, that being said, what do I give X-Men Days of Future Past? Well, I'm going to have to give it a 8.5 out of 10. Oh man, is this movie just close to being a perfect movie for me. The only things that hold it back is how I feel about Mystique and how I feel about Beast. And as I said, I don't really hate either of them, but some of them just, I don't know. I'm not fully sold on them. So, thanks for watching, everybody. It's time to go to the spoiler part of the review. Like I said before, guys, I really don't want you watching this if you haven't seen the movie, because I hate spoiling stuff for people. If you go into this film, I only want you to know the basics of if it's a good movie or it's a bad movie, why I liked it and why not, and what to look for. I don't want you to know more of the story. So please, don't watch unless you've already seen the movie. And if you're thinking, well, I just won't watch because I don't plan on seeing the movie, hey! Don't be an idiot! Okay? See the movie! Time to go on to the spoilers. So, Quicksilver was awesome, okay? That guy played it so well, and the effects were done on him so well. The speed, the way he moves, the way he's kind of like he has such a humongous ego. Let me just say, for me, Quicksilver in the comics, boring. He's always just like, I want to prove myself to my father that I can do stuff. That I'm really good at what I do and I can do stuff. Why do you love my sister and not me, Dad? Here, the guy is just so full of himself and he thinks that he's like the hottest thing on earth that he doesn't really care what anybody else thinks. And some of them, they get really annoyed by him, by that. And I was so surprised when he wasn't throughout the rest of the movie. I'm just like, come on! So you just use him to break into the Pentagon, and that's it? You're like, no, I'm done. That's it. Let's just put him over here for now. No! And I think we can all agree that scene with him in the kitchen, that was not only hilarious, but it was cool, and it was hilarious. and funny. I mean, it was great. I loved it. And that was like one of the best moments in the film. Me and my friends, we were just laughing our heads off at it because it was so funny. And let me just say, one of my friends who saw this with me, he also didn't like First Class at all. He walked out of this movie loving it and to death, and so was I. Sentinels. I want to talk about the Sentinels because a lot of people said, "Oh, we've seen the designs of the Sentinels. I hate them. I hate them." I like them, both of them, because we get to see Sentinels in the future, Sentinels in the past. Sentinels in the future actually resemble Mystique in the fact that they're using kind of like her powers to manipulate other mutant powers and adapt to them in order to destroy the mutants. Which is, they kind of make them Amazobots. I know Amazo's DC and everything, but the fact that they can scan the abilities and then take them is kind of interesting, but I don't really get how they do that, because Mystique can't take other people's ability. She can only, you know, mimic their looks. She's not like... Maybe what it was is they got Mystique early on, and then later they got Rogue's power, someone with Rogue's power, and they kind of fused them together in the whole thing, and that's how they work. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But I like the design of them, and then you see them in the past, and they look just like Sentinels from the comic books, and I don't know why, but every time Magneto does something where he reprograms the Sentinels to work for him is utterly awesome. I mean, totally awesome. I mean, I don't get how it worked, because he used, like, train tracks. Train tracks aren't wires. How did you reprogram Sentinels with train tracks? But that moment when he landed in the stadium and the guy's like, "Hey, can I help you?" He's like, "No." And he took an entire stadium? Oh my gosh, we just, move aside Dark Knight Rises, we just have a new winner for best stadium scene in a superhero movie. And he moved, I'm like, what are you gonna do with a stadium? I mean, I know the Cubs are a bad team, but do you really need to move them out of the city? But ching. Anyway, and then he drops it on the White House and is completely surrounded. I'm like, oh, that's genius! And the way he moves, I'm just thinking, man, they really did not need Magneto for this mission. He really screwed everything up, because the whole point was to not make humans hate mutants. And by freeing Magneto, they kind of ensured that, like, that they were gonna die, that they were gonna, you know, be hunted down. But I do buy the ending. I think that even though Magneto attacking them makes the ending a little, you know, like, oh, everyone is okay with mutants now. I don't buy that fully, but I think that, you know, it's good to a point. But I think it works. I think it does work. Oh, and let's just say that X-Men 3 and Wolverine Origins never really happened. That's right, because of this movie and whole reshuffling of the universe, no more X-Men 3 or X-Men Origins Wolverine. Those did not happen. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, that's like Bryan Singer just saying to F you to Brett Ratner, because it's like, hey, this is how you direct an X-Men movie. You don't make people so depressed they want to kill themselves. But we still got Kelsey Grammer as Beast in the one scene at the end, and I'm just like, yes, yes, and then Cyclops! Cyclops is alive! Yes! Oh, and Jean Grey's alive too, but Cyclops! Oh, I was so happy, I nearly wet myself in the theater. No, I didn't, but I was really happy about this, because I'm just like, this means that X-Men Origins Wolverine and X-Men 3 did not happen. And then I'm like, wait a minute. I guess that means, like, technically X-Men 1 and X2, those didn't happen either. I thought when, like, Wolverine was thrown into the lake and everything, and then he's brought up, and you're like, oh, Stryker has him, but then his eyes glow, I'm like, oh, Mystique has him? So does he not go with Weapon X? Is he just with the X-Men now? Does that mean we got Bone Claws forever? Because I want Adamantium Claws. Please? So I thought what it was is that since his future self is no longer connected to his past self, because his future self no longer existed, that he would that he would just come out of the water not knowing what happened, just thinking that he was just sleeping with that mob boss's daughter and got thrown into the water for his troubles, and then he would be taken by the Weapon X facility. They'd rob him of all of his memories and whatnot and throw him back, and the whole Weapon X stuff would happen, and so X-Men 1 and 2 would happen, but stuff would be different, and so X-Men 3 never happened. So I thought that was the case, but you obviously see Mystique's eyes glowing, so... And Mystique is a good guy now, which is kind of weird, because right now in comic books, Mystique is like the X-Men's #1 bad guy. I mean, like... Really, she is, because Magneto's on Cyclops' X-Men team, and Wolverine's new X was with the original X-Men and whatnot, and Mystique is the one making moves and doing things, and she's like their big baddie now, which is kind of weird, but okay. But now I'm like, okay, I guess Mystique is a good guy now. Not really sure how that's going to turn out. I mean, I liked her as a bad guy and thought her motivations were clear. Now she's just a different character. I guess I'll have to be okay with that. But now the reason I'm excited about this, the way this franchise is going, next film's going to be Apocalypse. I want there to be a new Cyclops, because I hear it's going to be taking place in the past. So it's going to be the X-Men First Class universe part now. It's going to be taking over all the franchise. So I want a younger Cyclops to come in and take over the role of leader of the X-Men. You can still have him butting heads with the Wolverine, since he's not going to remember his past self, and so he's not going to remember Cyclops. He's not going to remember how he's like with Cyclops. So they can still butt heads with that and whatnot. And I think that you should get. I want him in there. I hear Channing Tatum's going to be Gambit, so that's going to be interesting to see. I guess technically the X-Men films do kind of live on in Wolverine, since he remembers his past just like it was in the original X-Men franchise. But to everyone else, it's just a first-class franchise. So I view it as Star Trek, just like how we had old Spock that remembers the old franchise and the way it used to be, and young Spock who is experiencing it in the new way. We have Wolverine, who obviously Xavier will now implant with his memories of this universe, and he'll have both. He'll have his regular universe memories from the original X-Men franchise, and he'll have the memories of the X-Men First Class franchise now. So basically, he's carrying the weight of all the movies on his shoulders. Anyway, I'm just rambling now. I want to say, guys, that this is a great step for the X-Men franchise. I want to see what they do with it next. I'm so happy to see that they're going to go Apocalypse. I don't know where they're going with the whole story, but I'm really interested to find out, and I'm really wanting to see where they go with it. So, thanks for watching, everybody. I'm LaserDude99. If I don't like it, it's not worth it. And X-Men Days of Future Past is definitely worth it. See you around.
Be sure to check out more of my other videos on my channel, and wait for more coming soon.